Hey everyone, SolarPrimal here, and I'm back today to discuss an update that was announced on Wednesday for Pokemon Sword and Shield. But obviously you're wondering, why does everything look different? Truth be told, I'm actually just facing the opposite way. I got a new monitor, so I'm just showing that in the background versus the usual stuff I have in the background, so hopefully this is a little bit more pleasing to look at. It's definitely a bit more color matching, with the exception of my shirt, because I'm wearing a little baby Hulk shirt, but that's okay. Anyways, so they announced a bunch of technical updates that they're going to be bringing to Pokemon Sword and Shield, and let's talk about them. The first one being, they've added items that can actually affect the nature of your Pokemon now, as where before it was always randomly generated and you could do things through breeding to help influence what nature you got, but it wasn't always guaranteed, and you had to have situations in line to make it work. That's where before you would need, I believe, 2 Pokemon that were the same or similar egg group that could breed together. And I think one of them, the one with the nature you wanted, had to be female, and I think there was an item involved. I can't quite remember. It's been a long time since I've done breeding and EV training, but that, and along with that, you had to then, basically with breeding, hope that after your egg hatched, it came up with the right nature. If it did, great. And sometimes it took more than the first try, usually sometimes 15, 20 egg hatches. And yeah, you know, not to say, like, basically not to sound like an old fart with the Pokemon games, but a lot of you are kind of come across like that. But it was definitely a lot more involved when it came to just getting the nature right of your Pokemon, at least to what you wanted it to be. And now we have an item, or items, that can help influence it to the point where you can just choose. Like they showed in the trailer, they had a Pikachu fed a Modest mint, and it changed their nature to Modest, which, rightfully so, is actually a pretty good nature for a Pikachu. So, seeing that, I was immediately like, oh, thank God. All those hours I put into before, I don't have to do that anymore. So I think it's a good thing. Overall, I think people don't agree with that. Next, they showed the ability to actually use the supplements that were already in the game for a long time to actually max out your base stats for your Pokemon. As where before, there was actually a limit. You could only do, I believe, up to 100 stats. And it got a little mathy, so once you did those, you could then, you wouldn't have to do as much EV training, but you still had to do it quite particularly if you wanted certain stats to go up, because there was always limits. So at least now, you could basically do the bulk of that work with supplements. It's not to say that the supplements are going to be cheap by this matter, but it's actually nice to see that you could do it in a bulk amount, and you don't have to hit A every once in a while, which is kind of nice. You can essentially streamline. If you had like a Pokemon in mind that you wanted to EV train, and you knew which stats to do, and you just had to, you know, you could plan it a little easier than what you used to have to do. And it kind of, the method varied between games. I got really in the EV train for X and Y, and they had those super training things where you played a little mini game on your bond screen, and you'd shoot balloon, or you shoot little inflatable balloon Pokemon, and through that you would gain stats for certain stats, and if you did it enough, you get it to exactly where you wanted it to. So that's what I remember. And then they did some other stuff for Sun and Moon, which I believe was the Pokepelagos. But again, now you don't have to do that. So for me, I think that's actually a nice thing, because again, it the way I'm seeing it, you can kind of streamline your training when it comes to doing competitive Pokemon battles. So that may help. We'll see. The third thing they talked about, I was a little confused only because I thought it was already a thing you could do in the game. When you breed certain Pokemon together, they would pass down certain moves. But I guess this time, the example they showed was a Sylveon passing down to a new Pokemon the exact same moveset, which is okay. Again, in my mind, I felt like that was something you could already do. I'm possibly wrong, but if I'm not, cool. That means I'm not totally overwhelmed by Pokemon, but I don't know. That one didn't seem to like spark anything like ooh, but only because I thought we already had it. But if it is something new, that is pretty cool, because then you can essentially duplicate a Pokemon that you've trained, especially if you want to say pass a copy of it to your friend. That way, like if they're like, oh, can I get that Pokemon? That's awesome. I like how you built it. And he's like, yeah, sure. Let me just breed you one, and then boom, one for their own. Then you don't have to worry about trade backs, because those can be tricky sometimes. And then they announced that you could access your boxes for Pokemon almost anywhere, which I kind of liked in Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. So I'm pretty happy that they brought this back. For years, we always had to either plan it out right, where, you know, you set out onto a route, and then if you had to switch out for whatever reason, like, heck, you've seen it on my channel quite a few times where I've gotten to a place and I didn't have the right Pokemon because, well, I needed like an HM or something, or a trade. I didn't have the right Pokemon, and I had to go all the way back, come back, and that's more or less a fault of myself for not planning properly, but of course, it definitely slows things down if you have to go all the way back and then and then make your way back to where exactly you were before. Again, on the YouTube videos, it's a quick edit, but it takes time in between all that. That's the part you guys don't see. So I think this is actually a good thing. Again, there are people out there that actually think it's awful, but that's fine because they like the challenge. But one of the things I always had problems with, but I was like, that's the game, I'm used to it, is if you get to a new route and your party's full for whatever reason, you forgot to dump them into the box or something, and you encounter a Pokemon and you're like, holy crap, and then you catch it and it goes to your box because your party's full, but you want to use that Pokemon right away. Being able to access your box almost anywhere, you could easily just grab that Pokemon and start using it right away instead of having to go all the way back and then all the way forward. And then sometimes you don't actually get a choice in that matter. Sometimes you're stuck in the middle of a story thing and you can't go back, so you're just stuck with what you have until you complete the task, essentially. So having the ability to access your box anytime you want, to me, is actually a nice thing. So I'm glad they brought it forward into Sword and Shield. And it's something I've said before. Every Game Freak tries to innovate, or at least try something new and to see if it works. If it does, cool, they may keep it. If it doesn't, they may not, or they may bring it back, or they may vary it some way. Again, they started this in Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, so obviously people really liked it because they brought it back. And so I think that is fantastic. And then the last thing that they shared was something a little interesting. I kind of like the idea because I think they had a variant of it in Let's Go Eevee and Let's Go Pikachu, but they've introduced this idea that you could have different grades of rare candy to feed to your Pokemon. So it's not just essentially one level per candy. Some of these are actually a lot bigger. They showed an XL rare candy, and that did, I believe, I'm literally looking at it right now, 30,000 experience from one candy. I think that's really, really cool. That definitely kind of reminds me of basically finding max revives and max potions out in the wild. But yeah, no, I think that's pretty cool, especially if you have a certain Pokemon you're like, I want this one to get leveled up a little quicker. That's pretty good, and that could especially come in handy if you want to get a Pokemon up to level 100 really quickly and you don't want to just level grind. That, or if you want a Pokemon to catch up really quickly to your team. There's definitely some benefits to it. Truth be told, I usually don't use any of my rare candies when I play until I get to either the Elite Four or the last of something. And so I usually do have the supplements too. But again, if you think of all this as mechanics to use after game, during when you're building a competitive team, whatever you're trying to build, and having the ability to actually get Pokemon leveled up really quickly. Because there were techniques before. You would have... Before the experience share came around, we had to have the Pokemon in the front, and then switch them out. Like, you encounter a high-level Pokemon, or a high-level trainer, and you switch out that Pokemon for one of your regular teammates that could handle it. They knock out that person, or that trainer's Pokemon, and then you get the experience, half the experience from that. But that was how you basically trained up a Magikarp before. And then they had the experience share, which was only to one other Pokemon, so you didn't have to do that risky move. But, you know, that was a cool idea. And then now they've kind of forced the experience share feature, which is fine. I was kind of on that when they did that for, I believe, X and Y, because I felt like it kind of pushed everyone up a little too quickly. But then at the same time, you got used to it in Sun and Moon, because then you didn't have to worry about stopping your progress, switching in the other Pokemon that needed to catch up in levels and train them up, or even what a lot of young people do. I know this because my youngest nephew started playing Pokemon, and he got into that unfortunate situation of only training their starter before they had any experience share. And then when that Pokemon gets knocked out, they have a bunch of level 4s at their disposal, and it just goes pop, 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 and gets knocked all out, and then they feel disappointed, but they don't know why. And trying to explain to a 5 or 6 year old that you need to allow the other Pokemon to get leveled up as well, even though your starter is your favorite right now. It's something you have to do. But again, that's the thing. A lot of people are thinking that all these mechanics are hand-holding all the kids out there to make competitive Pokemon, but those kids aren't gonna do that. Like, it's not to say it's impossible, it's just that's not their mindset at that age, to think of EVs and natures and IVs and stats. They just see a game that has cute Pokemon on it and they want to play it, you know. And again, this is why I like Pokemon so much, because I think it fits multiple age groups. It's not just for the kids of the new generation. It's not for some of the slightly younger generation that got into Pokemon at Generation 5, and it's also for the ones like me who played since Generation 1. And you know what? I'm kind of glad that Pokemon has been able to last as long as it has and evolve with things as they go around, as things develop, as we do as well. So some people think that these some people think that these mechanical changes aren't really worth it because they still want their full Pokédex, and you know, I get the argument on it because a lot of people put in time and effort to get certain Pokemon either as a shiny or they got them at an event that they could only get at that event, but now they can't bring it into this game. But I don't think that's what... Obviously, it's not what Game Freak is focusing on right now. You're not going to lose that Pokemon. That Pokemon is still going to exist in the game it's currently in, and again, we've heard... I'm starting to ramble, actually, and that's not what I wanted to do in this video, but my point is, I like what they're doing with these new technical things. Man, what is it called again? I said it at the beginning and it was totally fine, and I lost my train of thought because I started rambling about something else. Point being, I like these new advancements. I like these new game mechanics. Got there. That they're implementing. Again, I'm a little confused by the egg move thingy, because I thought that's something you can do before, but maybe I'm just not reading it properly. Who knows? But again, I like what they're doing. I think they're streamlining it, basically, because again, not to sound like an old man, back in my day we used to have to pick the Pokemon properly and plan that out, and then we used to have to ride our bikes over and over again for I lost track of how many steps because they took out the Pokédex, and I'm still pissed off about that. Point being, take advantage of these new game mechanics that they're implementing and enjoy it. Enjoy the freedom to be able to pick the nature you want to, being able to feed rare candy, being able to actually rely on the supplements to boost your Pokemon stats. And who knows, maybe that might be the new way of things, because again, the old way of things, I didn't know Generation 5 too well, but Generation 6, everyone found out that exploit in Lumio City. You get to the tower, you stick a diamond to the joypad area, and you just do circles. You know, the game will just let you do circles, endless circles. And that's what people did to hatch eggs. Yeah, it helped to have Pokemon with Flame Body or Magma Armor, I believe it was, to help with that. But that's what that was the technique before on hatching Pokemon. Even before then, in say Generation 4, when breeding actually was a bit more useful. You'd have to go up and down from that route for the breeder, and you know, these days now, who knows, maybe they're gonna put up a new advancement on speeding up egg hatching. Who knows? In fact, people are always gonna find a little exploit. Back in Sun and Moon, you could ride your Tauros in this little corral area in a circle. You just gotta like do circles while it's running, and for some reason that really racked up all the running. It counted all that running, and you just have to stay in one spot. You know, the Pokemon fans and communities are gonna figure out a way to streamline Pokemon breeding and building competitive teams. Game Freak has just found a way to help streamline it even more. So you can find it as handholdy as you want. I think it's a great thing, and now I don't have to spend hours upon hours training up one Pokemon. I can maybe plan out multiple teams if I wanted to with this new game mechanic, or mechanics, so to speak. So, yeah. Well, that's all I wanted to talk about today. I would like to know what That's all I wanted to talk about today, and I would like to know what you think about these new game mechanics that have been implemented. And in fact, let me know what starter you want to pick, because that topic has come up again, actually, and I'm possibly still Team Scorbunny, but I might be Team Grookey. Not sure. Not Team Sobble, because the wife and a lot of other people I know are going to play Sobble, and why would I do that when I can get Sobble later from one of them. Why not? They'll get Grookey or Score Bunny from me. So, fair trade. Fair trade. Starter for a starter. Either way, I'd like to know how you feel about all this. And again, good or bad, let me know. Let's have a discussion. Why not? And, man, it's only, wow, as of this recording, 9 days. But this video is probably going to go up maybe sometime next week. I don't know. So it'll just be probably less than a week by the time this video goes up. So yeah, less than a week until the new Sword and Shield coming out. I'm still excited for it. I know some of you are and some of you aren't, but that's okay. Let's see what happens. So that's all I got to say for this time, guys, and hopefully we'll see you around in the next video. So until then, you guys, this is SolarPrimal signing out, and bye for now. Also, let me know what you think of this. If you like it, cool, I'll keep it going. If not, I'll go back to the weird background stuff. Okay, bye.